we recommend that you watch the movie before watching our episodes. Hi, it's Inception time again on yet another perspective. I'm your host Neeti and this is Swati. We are going to be taking our conversation forward from last time where we spoke about the central characters of Cobb and Fischer and what the movie is about. This time we'll be talking more about another important character, which is Ariadne. She's actually one of my favorite characters in the movie. So my question to you, Swati, is why Ariadne? Like, what is the significance of Ariadne in the movie? Since she is the youngest character, she's the newest member of their team. She doesn't know much about what they do, but she still becomes instrumental in Cobb's journey forward.
So there are two, three things. If you look at all the other characters, whether it's Yusuf, whether it's Eames, whether it's Arthur, whether it's Cobb, or even Seto, all of these people are seasoned players within their own field, and they would be doing as part of their learnings, and they would be doing as part of their failures, coming up with ideas and thoughts and solutions accordingly. But a lot of times when you look at a fresher energy, when we have the concept called thinking out of the box, a lot of times it's easier for a student compared to somebody who's become an expert, because that box is not formed yet. So there's an innocence to it, there's a curiosity to it, there is a initiative to a lot of thoughts saying we can try this, and there is an honesty to it. The ease with which Ariadne is able to say that, listen, I am not going to open my mind to somebody who's so messed up in their mind out there, or the firmness with which she's able to say, either you tell somebody what you're going through in there, or I'm going to come with you, because they're taking a very big risk going down there. So the kind of calculated risks people who are experts would be willing to take, the kind of arrogance or ignorance with which they will treat certain things that they are aware about, like Cobb denying his own emotions. A younger energy will not be doing that. It will still be looking forward to a lot more answers. So once Ariadne realized it's a complicated work I'm going into, but the idea of pure creation excites her so much that she'll do it only for the purpose of that. It's not because she's getting paid, it's not because she's getting to put that in her CV, because she's not doing a legal job. So there's no return that you're looking at. So a childlikeness is very, very, very important to be dealing with or cutting through emotion and thought in an intersection. The way he makes that drawing between dream and reality, and how in the dream we always land up somewhere in the middle. That's the intersection that childlikeness brings in. Another example coming to my mind here would be the Giacat character in Gajni. If she was a doctor and not a medical student, she might not be putting in the amount of effort that Giacat puts in trying to trace the complete journey. And she could have just left it alone for, the patient to struggle with it. So as a doctor would say, this is possible, this is not possible, a student would look out for a lot more, maybe not feasible, but those kind of possibilities. So Ariadne is Cobb's conscience, Ariadne is Cobb's companion, Ariadne is the thinking out of the box and fresher energy, and that willingness to take risks beyond right now the assumption that this is possible. So she's also symbolic of hope. So whenever Eames is giving up or Cobb is giving up, she said, no, we can try this extra. We can try this extra. So she's somebody who comes in with the natural idea of innocence, instinct, and curiosity.
Right. That's so what you're saying is everyone else is jaded, and because they're so well versed with the process that they are not able to think beyond a certain point, which is what Ariadne sort of brings into the mix. Yes. And that is her importance.
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. Another question I had was, why is Ariadne not able to get out of Cobb's world. It almost seems obsessive in the way that she's trying to find answers about Cobb, while everyone else has sort of let it go and they've decided that, okay, this part of Cobb's life we will not poke too much into, but she makes that extra effort to go run to the lift and go down to the basement on her own, trying to get answers even if she's not getting it from them. Why is she so stuck in his world?
Now, whether we can look at this as being stuck in the world or we look at it as her own being able to figure out a future path for her own self, right? So the journey starts with Miles, right? Miles has trained Cobb, and Cobb was one of his best students. And Miles ends up telling Cobb that I have somebody better. And that's how he introduces both of them. So that introduction in itself comes back and says that, oh, this is somebody I can trust and rely upon. So while the trust might not be in the lines of, oh my God, he's so messed up inside, but my teacher trusts in him and that extension carries forward. The second is when he's taking this little audition test of hers and he asks her to make those mazes, just the speed with which he's able to pick up that maze and that little disappointment, you'll have to do that little better. And that little challenge that she ends up feeling at that point of time, right? And that callousness, which is she's eating something and talking to him and all of that, she just kind of straightens up and makes that circular maze. So that little challenge that she feels that, okay, I'm working with a very bright mind. So there's a lot more for me to learn in this particular situation is another thing that she would be very interested in. The third, as they show it herself, she walks out when she realizes that Cobb has Moll in his subconscious and, she's extremely aggressive and I can't deal with this. To come back and say there's nothing more creative. This is pure creation. You can mess with the physics of it. You can still be at that right point where logic applies and still logic doesn't apply. And, as an architect, the beauty that can come about. And her meeting Arthur also saying, you need somebody to design it. That's where architects come in. So for Ariadne, who's an intelligent student, the team which is coming together, Cobb, who seems to be very intelligent, Arthur, who's able to come back and tell her or talk to her at her wavelength in certain ways. She can ask a lot of questions to Arthur that she cannot ask Cobb. Or when the introduction of Yusuf into the mix or Seto into the mix or Eames into the mix, any student would really be excited for that kind of education and knowledge, which is almost knocking their door and coming in. So that's where her childhood innocence becomes very important, where she's saying that I would want to be part of this team, which seems to be of brilliant people. So it's also that. The next point comes in as part of pure curiosity, right? As to what is happening, what are these experiments that he's running inside his own mind. So when you're trying to understand the psyche, this kind of curiosity, if you go to see a lot of gossip magazines or a lot of celebrity lives are out there simply because of this curiosity as to what happens in the minds of these people. That curiosity would be there in any student when they are trying to understand not only the work and body of what a person brings to the table, but also what lies within. How do they think? In what language do they think? What are their fears? What would give them mental barriers? So the sheer curiosity, because Cobb comes across as such an enigma, that is another reason why Ariadne would continue in the journey. And as in how she continues, she also becomes, children have this little innocent way of protecting. So if the mother is crying, they will kind of come, wipe the mother's tears or do something about it. She knows Cobb is struggling. And that's where a little bit of the childlike maternal instinct also comes in, saying that I need to be helping Cobb. So she's the one who would then ask the questions, saying, what is in there? So he says Fischer's subconscious. She says, no, I don't want to know about Fischer. What lies there for you? So a lot of those questions is also symbolic that Ariadne is that childlike inner voice which will not let Cobb deny what lies within his own psyche. He would have to own up to it.
Right. So we spoke about why Ariadne would want to be in the team, right? But what is the importance of Ariadne for Cobb?
For Cobb, Ariadne is the most important character. While everybody brings in their ability and everybody brings in their strength onto the table, the inner psyche, which is such an uncontrollable place where a train could just come in at any point of time, where Moll could come up to disturb him, or the image of his children would come to distract him from whatever that he's doing right now. Ariadne is that innocence which will keep him on track, that voice which will give answers. So let us look at 3 or 4 scenes from the film where we talk about this. Cobb shares that, everybody thinks that he kills Moll. And Ariadne just has this little compassionate expression and nothing else. And then Cobb says, thank you. And she says, why? And he says, because you didn't ask me, did I kill her? So just knowing that somebody believes in me is the starting point, right? So somebody who's pure and creation and she can do my job well, that delegation, of course, is the first thought. But somebody believes in me is what is very important. Then Ariadne telling him, your guilt defines her. You'll have to address that guilt by confronting her. So she keeps coming with those answers. Finally, when initially Cobb just shrugs his head and saying, I'm doing whatever to go to my children, there is a point of time where he also begins to give up. Because Seto now is injured and maybe he'll be in a limbo and he'll not be able to honor the arrangement. Maybe now if we will do anything more further, then we will miss the kick and I will be responsible not only for Moll's death, but so many people dying. So Ariadne then is able to come up with this solution saying that we will go down under, we will find them there, you confront Moll and come back. Then she is able to trust him with saying that, okay, get Seto, don't be lost and come back with him. So for every part of the journey, whatever that Cobb was stuck with, those answers are with Ariadne, and that's why for Cobb especially, Ariadne becomes very, very important. For the other people, she's only this innocent energy, the childlike energy, where at times she could ask simple questions like, are you going to disrupt the one positive relationship with he has, when they decide that they will corrupt the Peter Browning image in Fischer's mind? So she asks the right questions, or she's able to also be a very, very important person for the director, that she is able to spell out what any other character would assume should be knowledge and not ask as a question or say as a statement. So as a narrator, for certain things that, because it's such an abstract film, for the narrator also she becomes that speaking person of what he's trying to depict, and which maybe a lot of people would have missed out if Ariadne did not ask it as a question or did not take it forward.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because as Cobb explains to Ariadne what is happening, we also learn about the process, and that's a great strategy to have used as a storyteller. Another question I had was, I was curious, since both of them are students of the same teacher, right, and both of them were the favorites in their own times, how come there is no competition or there's no jealousy on Cobb's part? How is he so secure with his own position?
I think it first, because he needs the help, it starts from necessity, and then because she's part of his journey every which way and not a threat to his creative process. She's only engaging with his emotional processes and becoming a key to every barrier that he's had. So every lock that he would have put on his own memories, she is opening those locks. So she then becomes a part of the inner companion rather than a competitor to be able to woo the teacher. Second, with the relationship he has with Miles now being his son-in-law, he doesn't need to be in active conflict with So he's not a student only right now. There's a lot more layers to his relationship with Miles, whereas with Ariadne, that's just a one single relationship that Miles finds her better. So I don't see the reason for him to feel jealous if Ariadne wasn't only doing the architecture work. Maybe it could be a possibility she designs better. So if you go to see when she's designing the first one, he's just in awe. He's just giving her very simple instructions saying, don't change so much. Otherwise, my subconscious will come back and attack you. Use these things only as signs. For example, a lamppost. Don't create things from reality. Otherwise, you will kind of lose out. Don't create things from memory. Otherwise, you'll lose out between reality and fantasy. So this part of it, he's just beginning to feel the second layer of a teacher rather than feeling a co-student who could be in competition. And that's why I think that was a very beautiful, healthily built up relationship, very stepwise, healthily built up relationship.
Right, so he's taken up the role of a mentor and not someone who's in the same position as her.
Yeah.
We spoke about the journeys of Cobb and Fischer the last time, where we spoke about how each of them grew out of their core emotions and dealt with guilt and shame in each of their cases. I was curious to know what has been Ariadne's journey and how has her character grown from the beginning towards the end.
I don't think we need a graph there. In the sense, when you're talking about Arthur or Eames or Ariadne in this, or even Setu, a little bit of their purposes were being solved. Like Setu was able to be successful, that, Fischer will become his own person and not really continue in his father's legacy. Similarly, Arthur would only learn this little from Eames saying he can be more imaginative. Or Eames could see that, oh my God, it's very risky, but pull up his positive guns very soon, right? Similarly for Ariadne, she got the experience of how the practical world of intelligent people work, and that didn't need to show a shift or a resolution in her personality. So I think that need didn't arise to show that graph, other than learning to grow up and know that she's quick with presence of her mind. She can think, she can hold her confidence with people who know better. I think they were more supportive to Cobb and Fischer in their movement.
Right. Is there also a reason why the character of Ariadne is more casual in the way she's dressed in the movie, whereas everyone else seems so formally dressed and so on point with how they talk and behave and present themselves?
The childlike energy comes back there again, that she's still not moved into being this straight-jacketed and always walking straight. She's still kind of in her own very innocent world, and that innocent world is what her role is. So they needed to keep her as casual as possible throughout the whole journey. She was still the fresh air among a lot of these seasoned people.
Right. This has been great, Swati. There is a lot we can talk about Ariadne, but I think in the interest of time, we will have to stop here for today. What I understand is that Ariadne brings that breath of fresh air into a very complicated, into a very complex movie, and she's there. Just her presence brings so much more lightness into the narrative, and that's for me. That's just been why I'm so drawn to the character. We'll talk more about this movie next time. We've spoken about characters this time. Next time we'll take a small look at the themes of the movie and how we can relate it to real life. Thank you for joining us. We hope to see you next time.